All right. So we are going to talk about something a little different from what we have been talking about. So we go start all the way from software and then end with the talk where we actually go deeper into the hardwares. Let's start with something like software governance is a claim which says, hey, you tried. We actually talk about things, hey, AI, prompts, bunch of stuff, and then we have a lot of tools and stuff which actually helps us say that make sure the agent does this, make sure the agent does this, make sure you follow the rules, you make sure the prompts stuff this. Hardware comes in, hardware governance proves that you indeed did that. So as we saw from a bunch of talks in the morning where we really went deeper and say that, hey, how we can bring in the hardware guarantees, how we can bring in the attestations, how we can run stuff inside the TE, and then we can do a lot. We can do a lot of stuff. And we have been actually hearing about stuff which says, hey, agents and prompts and governance and like policies and all of this stuff. So in this talk, what we are going to do is we are going to figure out a way where the two worlds can meet, how we can think of a future where we don't really have to think about the two things very differently, like no, really just focusing on the hardware and like just trying to say that, hey, where we stop, or also just on the software and saying that as we are cool as far as like policies and stuff are in place. How do we bring the two? And then that is where the real magic happens. So this is Imran. I'm the Chief Platform Officer in Opaque. I was part of Microsoft when I built Agent Governance Toolkit, which is something which has been widely adopted. We released in April. In this talk, I'm going to start with Agent Governance Toolkit and end with how we are tying up the software and hardware together to bring the entire trust and governance in place. So some of the basics which we already know, we have been talking about this for since morning. Agents are not LLMs. They are not chatbots. They are like much more than what we know, and they would be much more than what we know today. Agents can do a bunch of actions and all types of actions today, um, and they would be more powerful tomorrow. So the question is, what do we do? Do we just pick and choose where things make sense? Like for example, like can we just start thinking about agents, and when we think about the agents and LLMs and all of this stuff, we just think about the governance, or when we really are making some key decisions and stuff, we think about the hardware. So I think one of the things which we really have to start thinking about is it's not like multiple problems, it's like same problem which we have to think about. So what do we have today? We have a lot of AI governance software. One of the things which I built was Agent Governance Toolkit. A bunch of stats here. It works with all of the agent frameworks which people use to build agents. It has integrations with all of the stuff. There is a huge adoption. There is a good community ecosystems. But there are still a lot of questions which are still unanswered if we focus only on the software. Questions like, yeah, the policy was there. You deployed the agents with the policies. The policies were being used to govern the actions. But how do you know the policy which was used to make a decision to allow a particular action was indeed the policy you deployed the agent with? Very simple question. Um, Maybe the policy is correct, but like, is it the policy or what version was it? And there is a lot of questions around that. Hey, which model I really deployed versus which model is in production? There's a lot of things where the software in itself is not going to answer you, because the software, the governance, everything, including your agents and LLMs, are at the end of the day in the same box, and agents can do a lot of things. Couple of things, some examples. They're not like very exhaustive examples, but like some examples where software governance is awesome, it's important, we have to start with that, but we cannot just stop there. Like for example, if you have policies and you have agents which are powerful, which can do anything, they can actually go change the policies too. Or you could have policy tampering, but software is not going to really just guide you, help you there. You could have other thing very important is, I want to, as part of compliance, I want to know what my agent did, what actions the agent has taken, what led to those actions. And maybe I think the answer would be like, hey, we are going to log all of these things, we're going to have the logs, and then eventually we'll be able to verify all of those logs, which is good, which comes from the governance frameworks which we have today. But the question is, agents can actually go tamper the logs too. So there is a lot of things which uh, the software can actually help you, but I think you have to really go beyond that. And that is where I think we are setting the stage for some of the things we have been working on. The last slide, which says that, hey, maybe we have been talking about TEs since morning. We saw a lot of good examples about like, hey, attestation and task execution engine and like hardware guarantees and all of those things really can help you. But the question is, deterministic systems, obviously, like you really want a guarantee about like which process is running, if you're talking about the containers and all of this stuff. But now in the non-deterministic world, where you're talking about agents and LLMs and prompts and so on, which like a bunch of stuff which makes like an agent, uh, just trying to actually say that we can trust the hardware in which you're running will not help you. You would need a little bit more than that. And I think that is where I think this slide says that, hey, TE attestation proves a lot of stuff. You can actually have this application binary hash, firmware measurements, a lot of stuff. But in the agentic world, when we are talking about all of the compliance coming up, and there is a new compliance laws coming every day, there is a lot of requirements, which says that, hey, can you tell me exactly when an agent took an action? Uh, what led the agent to even make that decision to take an action? I think that's a very important question. You cannot prove it just with TE or just with the agent governance. You like need something beyond that, and that is what we are going to talk about today. Yeah, so a little bit about AGT. Thought maybe I'll just do a recap of what AGT is. Agent Governance Toolkit, which we built as part of Microsoft. It's an MIT license. We open sourced it from day one. And then the whole idea with this one was we want to give it to the foundation. We are actively working with AAIF, which is part of the Linux Foundation, to move AGT as part of that. We are in very late discussion of that. AGT is like entire governance framework, which it starts with policies, which is a basic governance story which anyone wants when they talk about agents, but it goes into observability, into the hypervisor, into the sandboxing, into the mesh, and a lot of other scenarios too. So it's like a huge feature-rich available in a bunch of 5 different languages, and like it's a full package which anyone can use. It's open source, customize it, and solves most of the problems. If you want to have agents communicating to other agents, you do have security. If you want to work with MCP, you have MCP security. If you want to think about observability, like how my agent has been doing over a period of time, how hallucinations are happening, you get it. You get all of those things for free. So AGT is like solving a lot of problems which you would generally have when you're working with the agents. But I think the whole problem is who can guarantee? Like, for example, when you are deploying an agent in production with the Agent Governance Toolkit, who can guarantee that the logs which are getting generated are indeed the logs which we can trust? I think the whole theme which we had today was trust. Like, who brings the trust? Who brings the trust? And then I think that is where the next slide we are going to talk about some of the new open source projects we have been working on. Aaron mentioned in the keynote, and then we'll just go deeper into each of them and like how do they help us. So the first one we talked about is the CMCP, confidential MCP. So we are not reinventing the wheel. We love MCP. We love MCP, and we really want to go ahead with the MCP. AGT supports MCP security out of band. So AGT plus MCP, you get a secured security with MCP, and you can get all of the stuff done. What we are bringing to the table is confidential MCP runtime, which says you can have your policies running in a TEE enclave. So which changes the ball game altogether. And I think instead of like your agent directly talking to the MCP servers and using the policies through AGT, we are bringing a little bit different architecture, and that actually gives you a trust, which I have been talking about. And this is one of the examples of trust. We'll talk about a different kind of trust we are bringing today. So here what happens is the policies which you are going to run, it will be part of this CMCP runtime, which has this, which is running inside this enclave. And then we have this, there's a lot of details which we can go You can look into the project also. These are all open source from today, which says that, hey, you can have different level of guarantees depending on like where you sit. You could start with the software guarantee saying that, hey, I'm good with the encryption, or you can use the basic hardwares, the ones which are available in your boxes, or you can keep going until you are like really running in the TE environment and confidential GPUs. So you have all of those options. And this guarantees that the policy you really wanted to use for governing your agents is indeed the policy which is running in the production, and you're not just relying on luck. It's a trust which gets guaranteed, and I'm going to talk about like how this guarantees some of these things come. There's a lot of information, but I think we have open source all of these projects which I'm going to talk about. So there's always you can go back to the links and see it. Second thing which we have been working on is trace, which says, prove me. Like really, where is the proof? How can you prove me that, hey, what did the agent do? What was the policy which was used when the decision was made? What was the hardware the agent was running on? Like, and so on and on and on. So what we have been working with our partners, AMD, Intel, and a lot of other partners, is trying to come up with a standard which call that, hey, we are named as trace, which actually is not again reinventing the wheel. We are reusing. I'll talk about this in my future slides too, where we are coming up with a new standard called trace, which says that, and we are also planning to contribute it to COSI. So we are actually working with that standards committee, which says, can we all close on one format in which we are going to generate all of this information so that auditors, when they need it, they can verify it. And then, so I think it goes back to the question we have been talking about since morning is, how can you verify? Can trust be verifiable? And I think this is where this comes in. We do have this initial version of the spec, which we are refining with our partners already in the project called trace.agenttrustio.com. And I think we are working with refining it depending on the use cases. You also have trace test and trace, so you can actually ensure that if you are working with a software governance framework, which is beyond Agent Governance Toolkit, you can actually make them also emit the logs which aligns with the same trace standard. And to make things easy, we work with the Agent Governance Toolkit team, and we got this trace standard implemented. So the new logs which is going to come as part of 4.1 release from AGT will start emitting the trace logs. So you can actually have some standards already baked in by all the consumers of the AGT. And the last, third most important thing which we released today, and then we mentioned in the same in the keynote also, is the agent manifest. And this is what I was talking about. When you deploy your agent to production, the question is like, what even agent is? Is it like just like LLM code which we go deploy? Is it beyond that? And then we think that it's like really a lot more than what then the LLM is. It is a system prompt. When you are designing your agents, you have a bunch of prompts which says that, hey, what are you going to do? How you're going to do it? What are your guardrails? What you're not going to do it? What formats? And all of this stuff. That's a prompt. You deploy it in the production, and you don't touch it actually, because until you really are coming up with a new version of this and you really want to hash it and attest it. Then there is a huge policy which comes as part of governance. You really want to say that, hey, you're allowed to do this and not this and all of those things. There is a policy. You have an identity, which is like a closed problem. We don't even have to talk about it. Every agent have an identity, and then we do have standardization on the identities part too. And then you have a lot more other stuff. There is like 10 things which we talk about. Agent manifest says that it's again the standardization which we are going to work with the COSI and AI. You have to figure out where this sits. And we are launching the initial version today, which says when you deploy the agents to production, you can take the hash of all of these things, and I think the three things which comes together is trace, CMCP, and agent manifest, and AGT, all of those things coming together. There is a huge, I have some demos which I'll show you, which can say that I deploy this in production and I have the hash. If something changes, it is not like something which I did intentionally, something got tampered with, my machines got hacked or something, those hashes are going to change. The attestation, or whatever I have been doing, and then I think the agent is something which I'm not going to trust anymore. So it's not like I have deployed something. Over a period of time, the prompt could have changed, the policies could have changed, and there is no way I can actually go figure out like, hey, is this really the agent I was running in production? Now you can, because you are going to take the take this hashes, and then you are really going to verify it against. And then you, to make things easier, what we have done is, for all of the projects we have been working on, we are not directly starting with the confidential computing. We are saying that you have different levels of attestation you could actually work on, starting with the software. I think if you're like just running in your machine, I'll show that demo, and you really want to make sure your code is good, your deployment code is good, your CI/CD code is good, your agent code is good, you can make sure things work. But when you start thinking about deploying to production, you don't really have to change anything, because things are, you're just going to say that where is the attestation coming from, and then you're good. So I think we have come up with all those kind of already different level of support, so you don't really have to worry about them. I think I'll skip this slide, because I'll just show our demo, and then I'll come back to a few more stuff. All right, it's very easy to use. Everything is open source. Everything is available today to really just go get your hands dirty. To start with the CMCP runtime, you are just going to say pip install CMCP runtime. I've already installed it, so I'm not going to install it. I have 3 demos. I'll run the first demo. These are all, like I said, everything. Oh, it's a. Give me one second. Application control policy has blocked this file. Maybe let me run all the 3 demos, and then I'll explain quickly. I ran all the 3 demos already, so maybe something is wrong, but I'll explain you what I'm trying to do here. I'll go back to the slides. All right, so maybe some things have worked, and that's good enough to actually for this demo. Okay, in the first demo, what I was trying to do, I think it's even the demos are available publicly. First thing which I was trying to do was set up a local MCP server and simulate that, hey, I'm deploying an agent, which is MCP client and MCP server, and I'm actually deploying my seeder policies as part of CMCP runtime. And I'm doing just some basic stuff, saying that, hey, the policy says allow this, disallow that, and then whether things are working fine or not. And then this CMCP runtime generates the trace logs. In the second demo, what I'm trying to do is I'm simulating things where I'm changing the policies. And then if the policy change without me taking explicit action, it is like just simulating something which is happening behind the scenes, how things are going to get invalidated. And then I would get to know, and my agent will stop working. So I will have that guarantee. There are a lot of things which right now, as part of this demo, is not working, but they would work when you try in your machine. Or maybe I'm just rerunning things. And the third thing is important. So I think what we are also trying to do as part of this one is like, hey, as part of first, we ran this agent, and it was calling some MCP servers using, and then the CEDA policy was running as part of CMCP runtime. It generated a bunch of trace logs. We said, hey, agent was trying to call tool A, and then the policy allowed it, and this was the approval. So this already gets logged, and then we have this tamper evidence and bunch of stuff in AGT. I think behind the scenes we have this AGT and integrated. Now you get a trace log, which in the demo 3 you can actually verify whether like, hey, this is indeed the right log which got generated or not. So I think there's a bunch of things. Hope the demo is something which is available as part of the GitHub repositories. It should ideally work. Give me one second, I'll go back. Yeah. So a couple of things here in this slide I actually wanted to talk about is different personas and how they would be actually using this trace record. Developer would ensure that when uh, they are they are working on the agents, shift left, they ensure that the agents and governance framework they are using is emitting the right trace logs. Operator, auditor, and counterparty. I think these are the different uh, uh, personas, and then there are different things which they are going to do. Developer is ensuring that trace is getting generated. Operator is where I think the trace records are going to get generated. Agent ran in approved TE and under approved policy version. Auditor is, I think, goes back to the compliance. I think who actually are asking for some of these things, saying that, hey, we want to know when your agent made a decision, how it ended up making a decision. They would be using the trace to verify. And then I think one of the goodness which comes with the trace records is you don't really have to worry about the party which generated the trace has to do the verification for you. The verification can happen by someone else too with the private public key concept. So there is a notion around that. Maybe I covered this standardization. I'll skip this slide. I'll go to this one. Uh, yeah, I think this one is important. I think this goes back to the question. I think one of the questions which we heard from everyone who are deploying agents in production, they said, governance is good, governance is fine, but it comes up with a lot of overhead, latency overhead. And we solved this problem in the agent governance toolkit. We said, hey, deterministic. We are going very deterministic instead of probabilistic, and then we have very lot less latency, things work fine. But now when it comes to hardware, um, you have to still think about things which you don't really worry about when it comes to software guarantees. There is going to be some performance overhead, but we verified, especially on the CMCP trace and the other areas which we are open sourcing. I think the performance overhead is not as bad, but I think the whole question is like, do you really want to do it for everything? And I think the answer is like, it depends. I think there are cases where you don't really have to, but then there are cases where you really have to. So I think one of the things which we really want to do as part of this AGT plus agent manifest plus trace plus CMCP is you don't really have to use it, all of it, when you don't want to, but there are some areas where you might still want to, like financial services, sovereign, governance, and a bunch of areas. And then I'm almost done. Last slide. This is how everything will look like when you think about AGT, CMCP, trace, hardware thing coming up. And that's it. I think these are the thing which we are launching today. On the first track, this already exists today. It's already 2 months. Things we have a good adoption. On the track 2 are the 3 projects which we are announcing today. They're already available. You can go be part of the journey, and yeah, let's make it best together. And I think I don't think I have time for questions. Thank you.